Hello YouTubers, Tross here, back playing some more Kerbal Space Program. Last time we returned from the moon, and we have 2.35 approximately million funds, 1,326.8 science, and I believe that is 64% reputation. So we're doing pretty good. The only thing is, we only have one contract right now, and it's to rescue Chad C. Kerman, and he's in orbit of the sun. I'm not actually sure if we can find him. Apparently there's a few other contracts available for some satellites. Oh yes, Chad C. Kerman. Is technically in orbit of the sun. But, yeah, that's going to be really hard to get to. We're basically... If to get there, we would have to be able to build a ship that would get us to that altitude, which is, lower than Moho's. To get there, we would slow down, we would fall in, but by the time we got there, we'd be going really, really fast. So we'd have to slow down again to get... we'd always be in orbit of the sun, but to get, an orbit that's closer, that at least for a few minutes, that we would be close enough to do the transfer. And then we'd have to accelerate back again to get up to Kerbal orbit, and we'd have to time everything right, and that's going to be a tall order. And we definitely don't have the capability of doing that quite yet. Luckily, we have 19 years to do so. So, we got some time. Apparently he's got a lot of food with him. Lots of snacks. So we got some stuff we could do. And we should pick out some of these and get to work on them. Hey, Gene. Yep. Orbiting Minmus. Sounds like a good one. So I'm going to take that. We're definitely going to go to Minmus at some point. Perhaps later in this episode. And then, let's see. That's the satellite. The other satellite. We got another rescue here. Low Kerbal orbit. Did not actually see them. Test a radial mount drogue chute. That's actually something I think you can do. We have a year to do it, so I think that's something we should take. We don't have any limits on our contracts. If we're going to Minmus, we might as well land there. And if we land there, we might as well plant the flag. Geosynchronous orbit. Launch new probe. It can generate power. I mean, this isn't bad. How much? It's not a... It's a decent contract. It won't get us any science. It's decent enough money. Got plenty of time. We got another guy in orbit around the sun. Where's he? Science from around Minmus. Hey, I think that sounds pretty good. Alright. Where are the 3 tourists? Where do these guys want to go? He wants to orbit the moon. Orbit Minmus. Orbit the... Whoa. Orbit the sun. Orbit the moon. Ah, he wants to orbit everything. Fly by Minmus. See, orbiting the moon and orbiting Minmus, I won't say they're hard, you need a lot of fuel to do it. Orbiting the sun, though, is what I would call hard. You have to leave Kerbin's sphere of influence, and then you have to turn around and go back. I mean, it's not that hard, but you want to basically just barely leave Kerbin's sphere of influence, and then once you do, slow down. Let's say you are heading out in front of Kerbin. You then want to slow down a little and let Kerbin catch back up to you, and then return. It's not incredibly hard, it's just something I haven't done yet. We have 2 days to take this. This would be, since there's 3 of these guys, basically this guy wants the most, and by doing these, we would complete the other 2 guys' requests. Suborbital flight on the moon, huh? So not only would we have to basically orbit the moon, we'd have to slow down so that we would... Oh, he wants suborbital on Duna. Alright, this guy is a completely different... Not gonna do this. If it was just these first 2 guys, I could do it. He wants to basically be on a trajectory to crash into Duna, but then not crash into Duna. We haven't even gone out to Duna yet. You're way ahead of me there. Alright. And then some atmospheric scans. This time it's 5. The pressure scans, there's 5 of them. 3 are the surface. This one's fine, but that one... would be a little... I mean, I could get it done. But we need one of the planes with rockets that I've used in the past. And it's really not that much fun. And depending on if these were really far... so it looks like we may be going to Minmus. I'm just checking to see... Yeah, I don't see that other guy. And I'm guessing these are all the... Oh, I should get rid of these. And those... Yeah, so until we actually take the ones with the rescue of the people... Yeah, this is the... geosynchronous orbits. This is the polar orbit, and that's not only is it a polar orbit, it's a polar orbit really close to the moons. Not really close, but it's a pretty big one. I'm thinking we're going to Minmus. So I'm gonna go build a craft for that, and I'll be back in a little bit. So, see you in a second. You know, I said I'd be back in a little bit, but I'm gonna pick up. We got science, so let's pick up some stuff that will make this easier. We did have skipper engines last time. Ooh, mobile processing lab. This would be really interesting to have. You know, we have the science. I'm just going to finish off this row. So we'll take miniaturization and we'll take propulsion systems. This will be more efficient if we're making satellites, definitely. These are small engines and a small fuel tank. Zeppotron may be really useful. But I'm thinking we definitely want, if not the mainsail, then at least this. The twin bore engine here. It's more thrust than the mainsail, and it comes with its own fuel. And this will make getting craft off of Kerbin really easy. What else we got? Larger tanks and some RCS tanks here. Specialized construction I'm not too interested in. This may come in useful, but we haven't had any asteroid missions yet, although we may need to take some before we'll get some. This may make aircraft easier. Air brakes could be very helpful, and we got some fairings here. Although my designs really haven't been fairing accessible. Advanced landing. Now I think we already have access from this, or to this, one of these, because of the mission we just took. But the bigger landing struts may be helpful. Alright, this is a SAS now, not a science thing, and we got another monopropellant tank here. We also have a vernier engine. It's basically a RCS engine, but it runs on normal fuel. I think we definitely want these command modules. This will give us a 3-man pod here, which I think will definitely be helpful. And it also gives us the cupola and the lander can, I think. Alright, this is the 1-man lander can. Definitely the command pod will be helpful, so we can take a pilot and a scientist with us. So I'm going to take that, definitely. I'm going to take the processing lab. we'll be able to use that in a bit, I think. We got science. Survey scanner. Oh. Not sure what Discovery Science bonus means. Here we go. We got a science experiment there. If we're going, oh, here's another variometer. Run atmospheric analysis. Alright, we have... These are going to take 300 science. I'm going to take this for now. And we'll leave the other, hoots it thing for later. Advanced fuel systems. We'll take the Sepratron. We take one more. Advanced fuel systems looks kind of promising. But, I'm gonna go with this Advanced Aerodynamics. For the air brakes, and then for the additional aircraft parts, I think, including the fairing, I think it's going to help. So, I'll be back in a bit with a new rocket design. Okay, this is it. This is the Minmus 1. Really kind of oversized ship here. A bit of a different design than our Moonlander, and that's because we have this 3-man pod. Because we have 3 men, 3 Kerbal knots, we have a pilot, we have a scientist, which is the important part, but we're also taking along an engineer as well. We have Bill, Bob, and Jeb here. And because we have a scientist, he will be able to reset the materials bay here, as well as the goo canisters, although we do have 2 goo canisters, just for balance, mostly. We have 1 materials bay that we're going to reset and reuse. So instead of carrying 3 of everything, or at least the materials bay and goo canisters like we did on our trip to the moon, we only have 1, and we'll keep collecting the data from it and resetting it and bringing the data back into the pod. Otherwise, we have a accelerometer here, temperature sensor, and on this side a pressure sensor. We also have batteries, like I said, 2 goo canisters, and 3 RCS tanks in here, all protected by the bay. There is a heat shield underneath it. little easier to see from this side. We also have the drogue chutes for the drogue chute test. And we have 2 solar panels and then 3 other parachutes, which should be more than enough to slow this down and land it safely. We also have some RCS thrusters, lights, and antenna. We have a Poodle engine here with a normal size 2.5 meter tank and an additional 2 solar panels here. These are the 2x3 solar panels, and some more RCS thrusters and 6 landing legs. I just don't want to tip over because this is a bit of a tall lander, so since we don't really have a wide base that the moon lander had, this should do us. This has actually more thrust than the moon lander had, because that only had 3 of the Terrier engines. So that's only 180. The Poodle, I believe, is 220. 250. Okay, it's changed for one. So we have more thrust here, although we also do have more weight, but there's less gravity. But because this is tall and thin, I kind of wanted the more landing legs to kind of help prevent tips. We still will need to be careful, but definitely the ice planes would be an easy target for our landing since they are flat. Then we have a transfer stage, which is another fuel tank and a Poodle engine. This hopefully will get us out of Kerbal orbit and to the moon and into Minmus's orbit. That's where we're going, Minmus, not the moon. And then we have this massive launch stage. We're now using this twin bore. Where are you? What's up? No, here you are. It looks like a solid booster there because of its size. This has a lot of thrust. Starts off at 1866 and goes all the way up to 2000. And we're pairing that with 4 of these kick-pack solid engines, which together is actually even more thrust. It's like 2,700 thrust approximately altogether. And yeah, we're basically going to be able to throttle this down as soon as we start moving, and not, only throttle back up once these are done. We have 4 fins here. This should be plenty of fuel to get us into orbit and maybe even start us on our way to Minmus. This, I think, is an improvement over our multiple stages of liquid before. Here's the stats. We got 74 parts total, 242.9 tons, really big, 40 meters. So let's launch and hope we don't run into any issues. I did do one test launch just to make sure this was viable, but didn't even get into orbit. I just made sure we actually have enough fuel. I actually did add the 1 extra tank just because we weren't quite getting into orbit. So we'll see how this goes. Alright, we are here on the pad. Let's get ready to launch. Let's turn on SES. Let's open our resources tab. Let's set up our map view here. And let's get ready to launch. I'm going to throttle all the way up, but we have plenty of thrust here, so I'm going to be throttling back once we get going. So let's launch in 3, 2, 1. Lift off. And let's tip over a bit here. I'm going to throttle back a bit. We do have plenty of thrust. And want to keep a little bit of maneuverability with that engine. And we also have the fins for maneuverability, but you just don't want to get going too fast, too quickly, and we do have lots of thrust. Probably actually will break the sound barrier before 10 kilometers. In fact, we're approaching it now, so I'm going to throttle back up before we drop these solids, and let's do that now. And the solids are away. That was a little close, but got away safely. I think we can go into orbital view and start heading over more. And we're coming up nicely there. Gonna tip over more. The only problem now is the ship gets a bit wobbly, I think, because of its length. Yeah, you can see it, but it's not too bad. I'm just want to get this up to speed and into orbit. Actually, running out of fuel here. Not sure if going too. Yeah, as soon as this hits 70, 75, I'm gonna stop. 2, 3, 4. And yeah, look at that. We are almost out of fuel. But we're also pretty close to orbit. So I think that kind of worked out. I would have liked to achieve actual orbit. Let's see, that's 106. It's a little high. That's why I'm moving that off. Wrong direction. Something like that. 74 by 76. Great. 20 seconds of burn. Not sure we have that. It's going to take forever to get this to turn. But we'll easily get into orbit. That's pretty good. We overshot it. Alright, here we are in space. Alright, let's turn on some RCS. Just going back. We got about 30 seconds before this burn. And I think once we're in orbit, I'm gonna call it an episode. And we'll head to Minmus next time. Alright, here we go. Let's start the burn. There's some wobbling. Alright. We're gonna stage. Gonna start this engine. And I'm gonna fall a bit, but I think we're gonna be okay. nosing up a bit just so we don't fall too much. But I think we'll achieve orbit before we drop below 70. And see we're almost there. That is us kind of between these crafts. Still need to get rid of those. Alright, we're almost there. And as soon as this flips around, I'm gonna cut the engine 60, 70. Alright, so we're not in the most circular of orbits, but it's not too bad. And we are in orbit. And we have 3/4 of a fuel tank left. So we're doing pretty good. We need to get to Minmus. That will be for next time, but let's set it as a target. Whoa! That was going way out there. That's somewhat close. Let's add a maneuver, something like that. And there we go, we have an intercept. Come on, let me that's probably less fuel. Well, something close to that. So, that will be for next time. So, thanks for watching. And I'll see you guys then with some more Kerbal Space Program. Thanks for watching. Let's extend these solar panels.